You're going to get a 2-for-1 today. I'm going to be talking about two of my favorite people to talk about, not necessarily my favorite people, but two people that, I have to preface this whole thing by saying I have two daughters, I have nieces, I have sisters. And if either of them were to reach the level of success that either Joy Reid or Jasmine Crockett were to achieve, I'd be proud of them. So from that perspective, more power to them. But they always seem to be complaining. They seem to have only one mode, and it's complain mode. Everything is stacked against them, and that's what I don't really like.
Old news in an effort to make yourself relevant? Apparently, Piers just cannot bring himself to break from his old apprentice pal, Donald, even now, in the Epstein times. So he decided to pivot to a familiar right-wing target, me. The interview, which drops tomorrow, was a cheap, sleazy, very Piers Morgan pivot.
So first of all, you can tell she is salty. She's trying to do damage control before the video came out. And she's now online. So she lost her show. She's online. And the interaction between her and Piers Morgan, who I don't really particularly like, is just legendary. I like the interaction. And I just like that he went for the jugular. I'm going to talk about Jasmine Crockett first, but I do want to just get this bit out.
To take the heat off of the right and Trump and put it right where the right needs it to be, on the black lady. Because here is the thing about Piers. For someone who claims to not care at all about race, he spends a lot of time talking about black people, black presidents, black ex-cable hosts, black princesses. He seems obsessed, which is how Piers got himself fired from his job on Good Morning Britain over his relentless, endless, obsessive hatred of Meghan Markle.
So you got yourself fired as well. How he got himself fired, he just had a view. He kept saying it. You just kept doing the exact same thing, which is TDS, Trump hate. The whole country is racist. Everybody's after me. And your ratings weren't good. Nobody was trying to hear what you had to say. And the one thing that I can say for Piers, and as I said, I'm not a big fan of Piers, but he's made it online. I doubt if Joy Reid will get anywhere close to the level of success that Piers Morgan currently has, which is why she actually went on his show.
Who, for some reason, terribly triggers Piers, who allegedly had a 2016 luncheon with her after they developed a friendship online, but then she ghosted him around the time that she started dating Prince Harry. And now he seems to hate that she's a princess, and not a quiet one, but rather one who talks openly about the racism that she has faced since becoming a royal. So Piers, I did not get fired from MSNBC over ratings, but I would sure rather it be that than being separated from my show after a massive petition and viewers looked at me as a racist creep.
Let's move on. I want to move on because I don't want to spend the whole time talking about this.
I enjoy this. So definitely strap yourself in because this is comical.
It behaves the way he does. Trying to take people's citizenship away, denaturalizing. That's Idi Amin behavior. There's a black fascist that you can compare him to.
Okay, let's move on to, I want to just play a clip of when you lost your job at MSNBC. Let's watch this.
I love how he said when you lost your job. I love how he threw that in there. And look at her face. Look at the way she reacted when he said that.
And that, I'm sorry, that what I was doing had value. And in the end, I'm sorry, I try not to cry on TV. And whether it's talking about any of these issues, and yes, whether it's talking about Gaza and the fact that we as the American people have a right to object, to little babies being bombed. And I am not sorry that I stood up for those things, because those things are of God.
So now this woman is talking about God, and it bothers me when people do this. Like, they try to inject religion into something that everything else they say goes against that religion that they're talking about. So she's talking about God, but yet she is a big fan of explicit materials being in preschool, right? So these books that people have been complaining about being in schools, she's all for it. She's all for that. But yet she's talking about God. What I find quite often is when people try to take the moral high ground on these different topics, but they can't be consistent. Someone like Joy Reid, I'm not saying, and who am I to judge anyone and if they're a Christian or they're not a Christian, but you have to be consistent. And the way that she behaves does not seem consistent with the behavior that I'd be expecting from a Christian.
And I'm a church girl too, and those are the things that I was taught were of God. And so I'm not sorry. I'm just proud of my show.
Now, look, you're perfectly entitled to be proud of your show. Many people enjoyed your show for many years. A lot of people at NBC were briefing that the reason was declining ratings post the election, a 47% decrease in your election, in ratings from pre-election. But you told Mark Lamont Hill on his show this.
After I said on my show that the reason Americans could relate to Ukrainian.
I've got a comment on this. Why is he wearing a t-shirt that says the future is black and feminist? It's men like that put out those type of messages. Now, I feel like everyone should have a chance. And, I have daughters, like I said, and I want my daughters to have an equal opportunity at everything. But I'm going to teach them to be strong, resilient. I'm going to give them all the characteristics that regardless of what someone may have had in their mind, my daughter is going to be so good that they have to give her the job or they have to give her the opportunity. And maybe that's a utopian way of thinking about it. But I just don't like seeing men walk around with t-shirts or, picketing and talking about feminism and all that. Just raise strong women. That's what you need to do. And then they can take care of themselves. They don't need you wearing a t-shirt.
In a way that they didn't relate to Palestinians, that Ukrainians are white. And so watching white people get their schools bombed was, hit different. That hit our ratings. I mean, it definitely, we could see the loss of white viewers from that moment that I said that. Right. So they were like, we don't like the name calling. And also I'm a black woman. So, I'm sure it makes him angrier, when I say things. Maybe
that's their fallback for everything. Have you noticed that, like the Kamala Harris argument, the Joy Reid, the comeback is always, well, it's because I'm a black woman. You can never identify a thing that they do or say that is off and then just analyze that thing. It always has to be that you're coming at it because they're a black woman. This is why I think The View should have someone like Candace Owens on there. Not that I'm a fan of Candace Owens, but they need a black conservative woman on there that is solid. They need in these debates to have someone like Candace Owens in these debates, because then they lose that ability to say, well, you're just saying that thing about me because I'm a black woman. They need another strong conservative black woman voice to counteract that. And 9 times out of 10, one thing that I know, that 9 times out of 10 conservative leaning people tend to have to understand how to put an argument forward better than people on the other side. And the reason why that is quite often in these situations, they're outnumbered. So they have to be better at articulating their argument. Whether they're right or not, they do have to be better at articulating it, because have you noticed that you've never seen AOC debate? You've never seen Jasmine Crockett debate? You've never seen most of these people that talk all this mess and always want to say that we're the face of the future and we have these great ideas. You never see them debate. But when you look at a lot of people on the left, if they get invited onto one of these shows, it's a debate, the whole thing. And it might be them versus 4 people, just like with Scott Jennings. Scott Jennings has to hold his own. This isn't about agreeing with him politically. It's just about understanding fairness and balance, that in a conversation, when you're in a conversation and it's supposed to be a goodwill conversation, but it clearly isn't, because the other 3 people plus the host are all going against you, you have to give someone credit for showing up every day. But Mark Lamont Hill and Joy Reid and them, actually, I'll give him credit. I have seen Mark Lamont Hill debate, but I have never seen Jasmine Crockett or Joy Reid or AOC or any of these people in a debate.
Maybe because I am a Global South person myself, as a black person, we have a different empathy toward other Global South people when they are suffering. And so we're going to come at that story from a different
angle and in a different way and with different kinds of empathies. And I think that's not always received very well in the news business.
Yeah. So before we get into this, I just want you guys to understand how Joy Reid is trying to have her cake and eat it too, right? She's trying to claim that, well, I wasn't fired because of ratings. I was fired because of racism. But yet she admits when discussing why she was fired that she lost a lot of white viewership, right? Because of the unhinged things that she was saying. Now, I've said this before and I'll continue to say it again. What these race hustlers don't realize, especially when we talk about news and media, that the majority of the American public, they are white, okay? And because of that...
And on another note with that, like, I've always wondered, like, on Joy Reid's staff or on any of these people's staff, do they have any white employees, any white cameramen? And so either they have all black staff or they have non-black staff that have to hear them say that their parents and they potentially are all evil. They're all oppressors. Like, how could you work in an environment like that and be a self-respecting person? That's like the equivalent of like what she would probably say that she has to work under or worked under in previous times where maybe she felt like she was the only black person there. So the staff and the people that help produce these shows, I'd like to see what the makeup is, and I'd like to understand how a non-black person could go in every day and do the lighting or the makeup or the catering for Joy Reid's show, and basically all she does is trash white people. All she does is say that black people are oppressed. That's not an environment that I'd want to be in. I'm sorry.
Anti-white commentary is not something that is going to pull in a lot of viewers. You may pull in whites that don't like themselves, right? White progressives that hate other whites. You might pull them in. You might pull in some minorities who also hate whites and love anti-white commentary. But for the most part, it's not marketable to the general public, right? It's extreme. And that is the territory that Joy Reid got into. So it's just funny to me to hear her acknowledge that she lost white viewership while at the same time claiming that, well, no, I wasn't fired because of my ratings. I was fired because of racism, which I guess in her eyes kind of makes sense because her losing white viewership is because of racism, not because of the racism that she was spewing, but because the white viewers are racist because they don't want to hear her theorize about why people care about Ukraine over Palestine having to do with race. When, I mean, the reality is the main people who don't care about Palestine that much also don't care about Ukraine that much. And it really doesn't have that much to do with race, okay? As much as it has to do with the fact that those people, just generally speaking, just don't really want U.S. involvement in any of these conflicts, right? And it has more to do with that than it does with race. But, you know, I don't know if Joy Reid is intelligent enough to understand that.
And the question, one of the questions I want to bring out in this video, is this the best we can do? Like Joy Reid, Jasmine Crockett, are they the best that we can actually do? I'm for real when I say that. Like, I know some business women, you know, some black women that are entrepreneurs, property developers, and they just are sharp, they're articulate, they're funny, they're entertaining, they're charismatic. I don't find Joy Reid to be a charismatic person. I find that, like, she's been given a platform and she's made the best of it, and she's found a lane and she stayed in that lane. I don't find Jasmine Crockett to be a charismatic person. I grew up with females like that, right? And I just don't find her to be charismatic. I think what happened with Jasmine Crockett specifically is when they had that hearing and she made that comment about that bad built bleach blonde thing to Marjorie Taylor Greene, it got a lot of play. It went viral on the internet. And it's one of those things, when you do a thing and you get a lot of attention for it, you just keep doing it. Like I don't like seeing her communicate most of the time because she doesn't come across as a well-polished, well-prepared person. Now, when she was first running for office, that's how she came across. But she does this like sassy black girl thing that if that's your natural way of communicating, then it is. But it's clear that she is just doing it because she knows that it will get clicks and it will get likes. We can do better than Joy Reid. We can do better than Jasmine Crockett. 100%. And if they need someone to host a show or something, they can reach out to me, because I know some females that, you know, you just be glued to the screen because they're intelligent and they're witty. I've never seen that from Joy Reid.
I mean, look, let's be honest. I don't think you were fired after all those years because of your skin color or because you're a black woman. I think you were fired because your show just got increasingly unpopular. It happens all the time in TV. That's why you got let go. Why play the race card?
First of all, I love the fact that your play the race card is your version of the race card. You literally are so fixated on trying to racialize conversations with me, Piers, I find it actually quite charming.
You racialize more conversations in your tenure at MSNBC than any host in history.
All right, Mark. All right, Piers. And the bottom line is you take an entire conversation that I had with Mark Lamont Hill and pick the bits that you can racialize, because this is your...
No, the thing is with Joy Reid, I've never seen an interview. And I don't watch her that much, so I'll be honest. But anytime you watch her, there has to be a racial angle to it, no matter what it is. So I imagine, you know, for the sake of time, of course, Piers Morgan has to clip part of the interview. And of course, for views, you're going to take the most provocative piece. But I would imagine if you'd looked at the whole interview, she would be talking about race throughout the whole thing, or she would be talking about the fact, well, as a black woman, like that's what they do. I don't think they can get through a conversation without doing that. So yes, he may have clipped it, but two things can be true at the same time. He can have clipped it, and it can be that throughout the whole interview, you were making it racial.
Your shtick, and I get that this is your
shtick.
You
racialize everything, Joy. Come on.
I get it. I understand this is your shtick, Piers. And listen, game recognized game. I get this is your game.
It's not my shtick.
And the bottom line,
it was your
shtick.
It
is your shtick, and everyone knows that it is.
Stick.
Piers, we
people
understand
got bored
what
with
it is. And it is so interesting to me that you yourself, as a white European, find that when people of color talk...
You see what I mean? And you know that I don't like that phrase, people of color. But you see how she has to attack him because he's a white male. So in other words, he can't have a view. And if he does have a view, it's always going to be based on the black woman. And this is where we have the problem. And they have been given that that shield, that infinity shield, to be able to always undermine anything that anyone's saying just by saying, well, I'm a black woman, and therefore you shouldn't be able to say that. And this is why they're not good at debates. This is why they'd be hard pressed to get in a conversation with another person, another black woman, a Candace Owens or something, because their arguments aren't very well developed, because most of the time they're talking to people who agree with them. If they're talking to a white male that doesn't agree with them, the first thing they're going to do is attack them for being a white male. And one thing I will say, and I've said it before, I'm not a fan of Piers Morgan, but I can say consistently throughout the years, he's talked about a lot of different things. I remember when he had the show in the States and he was talking about gun control. He was completely off for that. And I think that's one of the reasons why he lost the show. But he talks about a lot of different things. For a period of time, he was really pro-LGBTQ. So there's a lot of things that they used to align on. So it's not like he's always talking about race, because he's not. And the whole thing with Meghan Markle, that was a personal thing. I don't think that was about race at all, because I do recall when she first got married and first married into the family in the UK, people were loving it. People were absolutely loving it. And I also remember that no one really knew she was black. Like, even when she was on Suits, like, you would have figured that she was Hispanic or whatever. She started to lean into that after, because she wanted to have that shield that if anything was leveled against her, she could say, well, you're just saying it because I'm a black woman.
About race, that you believe is racializing conversations. But when people like you fixate on, well, Barack Obama was a black president, why don't you object to that? That is racializing a conversation about the former president of the United States. But you can't put your, and I'm sure you find that charming and funny.
I find it hilarious, because you're the one. You're the one who said Donald Trump.
You and your friend Donald Trump.
You said Donald Trump is a white fascist.
Are so. He is. Well,
I agree
And
with
yet
Mark
when Obama
Milley,
did the
who
same
was,
thing,
last time I checked, is
I'm not allowed
black.
to mention his skin
I
color.
agree with his former chief of staff, who last I checked was not black and said he's fascist. And Mark Milley said he's fascist to the core.
Okay.
So I happen to agree, and I know this is what it's important to you, with two very white gentlemen about Donald Trump's fascist tendencies.
Okay.
If that makes you sad and uncomfortable, I can't help you, Piers.
No, it doesn't
There's
make me
nothing
sad
I
and
can do about
uncomfortable.
it.
I think it makes you.
Yeah. So this is hilarious. So Joy Reid has a problem with Piers Morgan confronting her on being a race baiter, right? On racializing every conversation. And she thinks that this is out of bounds because apparently, according to her, Piers Morgan is actually the one that's racializing things by confronting her for being a race baiter, right? AKA, you are racist, okay, for confronting Joy Reid on her racist commentary, right? You can't confront a black lady on her racist commentary, or I meant an African lady. You can't confront Joy Reid on that, right? Again, this is extremely fascinating. She's triggered by the fact that she's finally being confronted on some of her unhinged commentary, and in response, she continues to double down on exactly what she's being criticized for, which is basically using race as the basis of all of her analysis. As she just pointed out, Piers Morgan being a white man and calling her out being an issue, right? When it's like, just because he's white, that doesn't have anything to do with why he is confronting you on being a race baiter. He's confronting you on being a race baiter because that is what you do,
she's
right?
Known for. I don't think Joy Reid would have had a show or maintain a show as long as she did if it were not for that. And I also think that maybe they wanted to get rid of her sooner, but they just needed to make sure the numbers consistently were going down for a period of time, because they knew that the first thing she would do is say that it's racist and because she's a black woman.
That is a vast majority of your commentary is race, right? And you analyze events through the lenses of race, even events that clearly don't have anything to do with race. So with that being said, I want to fast forward to the part of the interview where she continues to double down on this idea that she's been attacked because she's black, and her attackers being white men, right? Are evidence that, again, this is some type of racial ambush, because this is hilarious. Because Piers Morgan is going to bring in Michael Knowles, and let's go ahead and get into it.
Let's just end with this. Not everyone was upset when you were fired. Plenty of those white conservative men that you like so much seem quite happy. Let's just take a look at this clip.
Joy Reid, probably the nastiest figure on MSNBC. The most left, the most vicious against conservatives and white people and men and all the rest. She has just been canned, fired, kicked to the side of the road. Her show is over. This saddens me a little bit because I did not yet have the opportunity to go on it.
I have to give credit to any podcaster or anyone on YouTube that is commenting on this. And to me, most of them are going to have more credibility to say this because they've created their own platform. Their platform hasn't been built on, a multi-million or multi-billion-dollar platform and brand. They've had to build it from scratch. They've had to grind, make videos, often probably be doing the editing themselves. So like if they come at you and they say a thing, unless when you lose your show, you're able to build a following like what they've done, which you have a head start on, you should kind of just take it.
Celebrating that there is no longer a market for her disgusting product. That's what I'm genuinely happy about. There has been a major shift. Her show and shows like her show no longer have value. And that's not just because of Joy Reid's favorite villains, the evil white man or the Christians or the conservatives. It's because no one watches her show.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a market for it, right? And that's my whole point. I keep trying to tell these people that there's not a large market for anti-white commentary, right? At least not in the mainstream. Okay, there may be a market for it in, some rabbit hole on the internet, right? Certainly there's a market for it there.
I think
but
there's
in regards to
definitely a market for it. I just think the problem is there's too many people providing that service. So because there's so many people providing that service too, it is a limited market, but there's a market for it. It all gets diluted. This is the whole Colbert thing. So you have all the late night show hosts, except for Greg Gutfeld, who are saying the same thing, telling the same jokes. So even if you have, a market, which is a dwindling market because more people are watching YouTube, they're cannibalizing each other, which then means all of their ratings are going to go down. Whereas with Greg Gutfeld, I think his ratings are the best because he's the only one providing the thing that he's providing. So Joy Reid and Abby Phillips and all of those people, they're trying to reach the same people. That audience is also watching things online. And so therefore, of course, your ratings are going to go down. And even more so, I don't think she's that talented to begin with.
Mainstream commentary, it's not that much of a market for it. Then this is why MSNBC, even they're getting away from it. This is why they got rid of Tiffany Cross. Joy Reid came after that. This is why they're getting rid of a lot of their so-called hosts of color, because they know that the vast majority of their viewers are white, okay? And it's probably not a good idea to market to them with these overt racist.
So, Joy, I've actually got Michael Knowles waiting in the wings.
Great.
Is there anything you'd like to say to him?
No.
What did you make of his critique of your show?
Well, I mean, the reality is that obviously people watched the show, and obviously that's the reason that
I think people hate watched it, to be honest, just like The View, and I think they're next on the chopping block. I think people watched it to get clips like what I do. I don't think they watched it because they felt like it was adding value. I definitely don't think that even the people that did watch it, I don't think they were walking away saying, yes, my IQ went up for watching this. It's that thing, like sometimes you want to watch the train wreck. Sometimes, in her case, you maybe want someone that's going to massage an idea or a view that you already have. But I don't even think she was the best in that vertical. I think she was just on television and probably at the time when people were unwinding or just had a television on. I'm not sure how many people would say, I'm going to rush home, or I'm going to, make sure that I rewatch Joy Reid. And I think a lot of the time she was just trying to play to the camera and say the most provocative or horrible thing that she could say about Republicans and Trump specifically.
For 4.5, nearly 5 years. So if he didn't like the show, I guess, sorry you didn't enjoy it, but I really am not that interested in his views on it.
Okay, well, we've got Michael there. Michael, anything you want to say to Joy?
Yes, wonderful to be here, Joy. Very nice to meet you. And I guess I would agree with Joy's take. People watched the show in the past tense, and now there's no longer a market for that absolutely vile content. And I think that's good for the culture broadly. And now we can all chat on Pierce's show.
Joy?
The reality is, Michael, the content that you and Piers like to trade in is grievance. And the grievance that white Americans have, that they have to deal with.
I'm not American.
You see, this is always going to be her go-to line. And Pierce is going to correct her and say, well, I'm not American. But it's always the go-to line. I don't like Matthew Knowles either. I don't seem to like a lot of people. But at least in that interplay, he can be a little bit witty. Like, she can't even be witty. Because if she was to come back at him, if she was to like say something witty, then maybe you could say, she got him there. But she can't even do that. All she can do is resort to saying, well, you're a white man and therefore your opinion doesn't mean anything. And you're just saying it because you're a white man.
That they have to do.
Joy,
You
this
just said
isn't
you have a whole
grievance.
bunch of
I'm
reasons you love
I'm
America.
celebrating.
And by the way, white grievance is very good for your bottom lines. It's very good for your bank accounts. And so having me here to be able to continue to traffic in that is your shtick. That is what you do.
First of all,
That's
Joy,
what you do, Piers.
I have to
And so
correct you.
it's great. And I'm sure you find it delightful and fun to say it. But the reality is, Piers, that is what you all traffic in.
I
It is
have
what
to correct
Fox
you.
traffics.
Well,
I can't
first of
speak
all,
for
I'm not
Piers
a
here,
white
Joy.
American. I think as my accent may reveal.
Well, I know that you're European.
And I'm a tan
I'm
American.
British.
My only grievances are
and
tan
secondly,
grievances.
Well, I mean, listen, here's the thing. Joy Reid is making an argument that, Michael Knowles and Piers Morgan, they traffic in anti-white grievance. Now, if that is true, then I think you could also say that Joy Reid traffics in anti-white grievance, right? I think that that is probably a true statement if Joy Reid really wants to go there, right? What type of grievance does Joy Reid traffic in? Well, the fact that she doesn't like whites. Okay, so again, it's just funny how she's basically the pot calling the kettle black at this point.
I don't think anyone, Michael, I will let you respond, but I don't think any host in the history of cable news has waged more grievance than Joy Reid.
Facts.
So the idea that you're now hectoring us about feeling aggrieved about things, you spent years being aggrieved about absolutely everything.
Excuse me, but your favorite president, the president who you completely support, is nothing but
My
grievance.
favorite president was Abraham Lincoln.
Was grievance. His entire campaign was grievance. Well, your former boss on the
I'm not
Apprentice,
Donald Trump.
She says these things. She sounds like a 16-year-old. She doesn't sound like an educated, mature woman. So she thinks he's going to get upset by her saying your former boss and your favorite president. This is what I mean. It's not like she doesn't even have any witty comebacks. And you can tell that she's outclassed, she's outgunned, she's not used to being in these conversations. And then furthermore, she's dissing Pierce's show. And this is probably the most views that she's going to get. I think later on, Greg Foreman's going to be showing her views. She doesn't get that many views because nobody's really checking for her.
The bottom line is that Donald Trump's entire campaign was about grievance. It was about white America feeling they'd lost their country and they need to take it back. It was about white America feeling that diversity was a threat to their children being able to go to Harvard. Their
and you know what, Joy? In the end,
diversity was and that is the reason that you all glom onto him and use him to further your own.
Actually, in the end, most Americans, as you know, most Americans, having voted for him in 2016, and after Trump spent 4 years in the wilderness and we watched the Democrats run the United States of America, people took a look at that in America and then they voted for Trump second time round in bigger numbers, including a record number of Latinos who, last time I checked, were not white. Anyway, Joy Reid, I'm going to leave it with you. Thank you for coming on Uncensored.
Wow. Yeah, that was great. That was great. So the video that you guys saw at the beginning of this video was Joy Reid, boo-hoo-won and crying, upset over what she felt was an ambush, right, from Piers Morgan. And, you know, it's just pretty hilarious to watch Joy Reid get confronted on some of her unhinged commentary. But she has an opportunity to prove herself, right? She has an opportunity to prove that it wasn't about ratings, right? Because she has her own show on YouTube, okay? She has her own podcast. And on her podcast, I wouldn't say that she's doing very well. I mean, if you look at some of the viewership that she's getting here, she has 223,000 subs. A lot of those subs probably come from the fact that she has a name, right? She was in cable news. But if you look at the viewership in regards to people tuning in, not really doing that well. Okay, you talking about 2.4K views in a couple of hours. 12K in a day. I mean, not good. Okay, on the video. I mean, you know, she got one video that she pulled in 100,000, maybe a couple, but not off to a great start, right? Not off to a great start. It's the same pattern you see all the time with these people. Okay,
and Greg
when they do not have a
conservative perspective, he gets more views than that. And I don't know, he probably doesn't even have a team of people. She probably has a team of people doing her thumbnails, doing, you know, all of the stuff for her. All she has to do is show up. She probably has people kind of framing the stories and doing all the stuff that like people like me have to do ourselves. And she's not even doing as well as just regular people. So this just goes to show you, this is where capitalism always wins. There's a free and open market. People will buy and consume the things that they enjoy, and they won't buy or consume the things they don't enjoy. And so if Joy Reid was that popular, and if her show being kept on the air was warranted, you would see that translate into views. And the other thing is there are podcasters who get picked up by not maybe TV networks, but other podcasters say, look, you have a brand that we want to bring to our platform. With that said, like Tiffany Cross and Joy Reid, why don't all of them create some type of platform that people can go and listen to, you know, Jim Acosta and Joy Reid and all these people that have been fired. Why don't they start their own platform? You know, as much as they hate capitalism, they want the money and they want the branding of these huge conglomerates. They don't want to come out their pocket and spend their money and build something themselves. But when someone does do that, they think that the person should be taxed to death. I'm going to now move into talking a little bit about my other favorite person, or not so favorite person.
But it did cause me some issues, for sure. So I placed last in the recommendation from steering policy. And so with that, I am not going to caucus for a vote tomorrow. And, you know, those that have decided that they want to stay in the race to pursue the position, I am going to gracefully bow out.
Well, wait,
because
she just said she came. She just said that she came in last, and therefore she's going to graciously bow out. It seems like you've been kicked out or pushed out. I've never come in last at something and then had the audacity to say I'm going to graciously bow out. I think the voters have already spoken.
It just kind of is what it is, right? Like it just is what it is. And so.
Yeah, and unsurprisingly, black liberals, the main cheerleaders of Jasmine Crockett, they're very, very, very upset with this, right? Black liberals, well, I mean, let's be real, black socialists like Joy Reid. On the Breakfast Club, she was really upset about the fact that Democrats rejected Jasmine Crockett for leadership. She believes that Jasmine Crockett should be a leader within the Democrat Party. Take a look.
Do you feel like Jasmine Crockett?
Before I go on, like, why is the Breakfast Club viewed as a place for political and social commentary? Why is Charlemagne viewed as someone that's like a thought leader? You know, I'm not knocking him. Again, he's worked hard. He's accomplished a lot. He's written books and all of that. But like just listening to it, just the level of hypocrisy, the level of gaslighting that you hear on that show. And then what frustrates me the most about Charlemagne is he tries to act as if he's not like a full-on vote blue no matter who Democrat, and he is. He'll talk and criticize things, and you know the Democratic brand is now like garbage and this, that, the other. But I guarantee you, he will always vote Democrat. He will always vote Democrat. And then watching the Breakfast Club, other than when they have like Vivek on there or my boy Byron Donalds or something like that, just watching people like Jasmine Crockett on there is just annoying.
Voice of the party.
Yes, and the thing is, what the Democrats do to me wrong is that they prioritize whose turn it is. Like Democrats are very orderly. Mm-hmm. They're almost too orderly for fascism. You know, in fascism you can't be orderly because the other side is messy, and Donald Trump stays messy. Everything he does is random, but it also exudes power. Mm-hmm. It just says, I have so much power that I don't care about the rules. Mm-hmm. And I think for ordinary people who are not political, who don't pay attention, to them, that just says that he gets things done.
Yeah. Or maybe
they'll even look past some of the
gets things done. Maybe that's what it is. Again, most of these people have never built a company. Most of these people have never created jobs for anybody. Most of these people are professional employees. They may parlay some of the money that they make from, you know, working for these big newscasters. They may parlay some of that into some side ventures. But as far as saying, look, I'm going to put it all on the line, like a lot of entrepreneurs do. I'm going to put it all on the line. Why doesn't she take some of her salary or some of her savings, whatever she has, and say, look, I'm going to start a platform that we can get our message out. I'm going to start a platform that I can hire other people and podcasters and, you know, creatives and build something to fight against, you know, all of the propaganda from Trump, if that's what she feels. Like, she will never do that. She's going to be filling out resumes and handing her resume in to try to get a job on another network. She won't come out of her pocket to build something, which I would respect. Even if I didn't watch it and didn't like it, I would respect the fact that she's willing to come out her pocket.
Horrible things he gets done to say, but he's effective because he doesn't say, you know, I don't have 60 votes. I can't do that. That's what Democrats say. He doesn't say, I do it, but it has to get out of committee in the House. That's what Democrats say. And Democrats say, AOC, we like her. We support her. We think she's great. But we have this other person that needs to be the chairman of this committee because they've waited in the wings and now it is their turn. The person who was picked over AOC has now passed away. That's what Democrats do, right? And in the case of Jasmine Crockett, a rational party facing actual fascism would say, who are our most effective voices? Who do the people listen to? Who do the people trust? Who do the people want to hear from?
The best that we can do, Jasmine Crockett and Joy Reid, if she's the most effective, if she's the best communicator, I think they think that people who get lots of clicks on social media, that people actually follow them in the sense that we'll go and vote for them. We see these people quite often as just content. We see them as someone that is entertaining. It doesn't mean that we want them running our government. When you hear Jasmine Crockett talk, it's just not someone, she hasn't gotten anything passed. It's just like AOC. She hasn't passed any legislation. And you do need some people in there to mix things up and bring in new ideas and all of that. But if she was to spend more time trying to pass some legislation rather than just showboating and running around messing things up, I think people would respect her more. Yes, she knows how to use new media, but she's not the only one. So I don't think that they should be the voice of the Democratic Party at the moment. And I think if they are, the Republicans are going to even in the midterm, because they're supposed to lose in the midterm, the Republicans, statistically. But I think if it's AOC and Mandami and Jasmine Crockett, and those are the people that voters are looking at as the option, I don't think they have a chance.
If it's Jasmine Crockett, we don't care who's in line.
That's right.
She's about to be the leader. We're going to put her as the head of whatever this committee is, make her the head of oversight, and put her on TV every day. But that isn't what Democrats do because they're orderly. And orderly is insufficient in the face of fascism.
And I'm glad you said that, because it's even with position, I don't care that Hakeem Jeffries is the Speaker of the House. Nobody's listening to him. Nothing he's saying is resonating. Nothing he's saying is cutting through. He's not even the person that I feel like should be fighting this type of fight. But a Jasmine Crockett is, AOC is. So I don't know why people just aren't getting behind them. Forget what the position.
Well,
the
it's
leadership
because they know that
is.
most of America doesn't like that. So, if you're talking about people in California, people in New York, people in Seattle, those type of places, maybe they have a look in those places. But when you go to more, I'm not even going to say conservative places, but just places where people are going to think and they see and look at that ratchet behavior and they're like, no, I don't want that. So I think Charlemagne, man, I just think he's deluded, but he's saying a thing. And it's one of those things that because he says it in a way and because he's on the breakfast show, it comes across like it's thoughtful. But most of the stuff that he says is not that thoughtful. And it's recycled stuff that everybody else is saying anyway.
Right.
Yeah. So I just cannot stress enough how politically ignorant these people are, right? I mean, it's just so funny to me how you have somebody like Joy Reid, who has been covering politics for so long, but yet she's so delusional in regards to why is it that Democrats would not want an AOC or a Jasmine Crockett as the leaders of their party, as being out front for people to see and to point to and say, hey, that is what Democrats stand for. I'm going to get into it, right? I'm going to explain it, but first I want to react to this clip of Roland Martin and Jasmine Crockett coping over the fact that Jasmine Crockett got rejected. Because again, they're trying to pretend like it's some big mystery why she got rejected. But when you actually listen to Jasmine Crockett's explanation,
what Democrats one. So on the guy side of this whole equation, is he the best we can do? Is Roland Martin the best that we can do?
Has told her, it all makes sense. It all comes together because ultimately today, Jasmine Crockett is not a team player, and that's ultimately why she's not in leadership. And I'm going to explain to you guys exactly what Democrats mean when they say that she's not a team player, because it's not a big mystery in regards to what they're really saying to Jasmine Crockett. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this.
Last question. You sought the House Oversight Committee ranking member seat. Democrats chose Congressman Robert Garcia. I opened this talking about your constant travel, doing all kind of stuff, traveling the country, raising money, being away from home, all those sort of different things. And then you got folks on Capitol Hill, people in your own party saying, oh, she's not a team player, which is sort of weird if you are going on behalf, speaking in people's districts. They're asking you to come in. They're asking you to donate. You raise a lot of money. You donate it to others. So it had to be upsetting to hear people say you're not a team player. And so what focus now? Because obviously people still want you. Media folks always calling you left and right.
They're
but
calling
that's a hell of a thing to say.
They're calling her because they don't know if she's going to show up and with the big eyelashes and say something crazy that they can make a thumbnail about it and put it. They're not calling her for her political insight. They're not. I've watched her interviews. There's not much of a political insight. They know what they're going to get when they book her. They know that she's going to go in there, say the sassy black girl thing about Donald Trump. They'll be able to clip it, put it on the internet, get some views. She's not talking about policy. She's not talking about how to move regular American people forward. She's not talking about how do we get more fathers in the home. She's not talking about how do we tackle homelessness. She's not talking about any of those things. She's talking about how racist America is. She's talking about the fact that she's being held down because she's a black woman. She's talking about, Donald Trump is a fascist. She's talking about all of those things, how everybody is racist and Trump. That's why they're booking her. I can guarantee you that if she was to stop doing that, nobody would book her anymore.
And your track record says, I helped a lot of people out with money, time, and energy.
Yeah, I want people to know that, when you're in politics in general, everything is a competition, number one. And number two, somebody's got to lose. Clearly there was only one spot. And so I do want to clear the air on this idea that, this is about a win or loss. For me, it's more so just some of the things that were said that were really disheartening in this race, right? And the only thing that I really wanted my colleagues to do is to make an assessment of who could be effective in this moment. And ultimately, if the caucus would have been person X is most effective in this moment, then that's one
exactly
thing,
what
right?
they did. Or even if they said that person isn't going to be the most effective, I think they recognize that you're going to be the least effective. These people that have been in politics for a while, and this is where they talk about the swamp, good or bad. There's certain norms within the swamp. There's certain norms within politics, and maybe it does need to change. And that's part of what happened with Trump. Because remember, when Trump first announced he was a joke, the Republican Party didn't back him. He didn't win the Republican nomination because people liked him. He won it because the American people and the voters wanted him. And then at that point, they had no choice. And now it's his party, like it or lump it. You may disagree with his policies, but they're very popular amongst the people that it needs to be popular with. So all this stuff that she's talking about, there's only one spot. Yes, there's one spot and they didn't want you in it.
It was just kind of some of the other stuff that was being said that was really, really disheartening for me. But at the end of the day, I am still the vice ranking member on oversight. I am still someone who sits on that committee. And so I am going to do what I need to do on oversight. I'm going to do what I need to do on judiciary. And it's just clear that, leadership specifically, because I decided not to push it to the full caucus because of the message that elected and appointed leadership decided to send by the number of votes that, I was given, even though I had more commitments than that going into the leadership meeting. So I said,
AKA they lied to her ass, right? They lied. They told her, yeah, we gonna vote for you. And then when it came time to actually vote, they said, hell no. Again, the Democrat Party is a party full of snakes and backstabbers. But anyways, let me let her finish. I'm gonna explain to you guys exactly what's going on here.
Okay, it's cool. Y'all sent a message that y'all aren't really open to working with me. And so I read the message loud and clear. And so for me, though, I think about the fact that there's a lot of time that I have missed in the state of Texas in general. And so I'm not going anywhere, but I am going to move a little differently. I think that working with people like my pastor, Pastor Freddie Haynes, or working with Pastor Jamal Bryant, or working with Bishop Jackson, or like there's so many others. I think that I'm going to dig into like what I'm doing
pastors
specifically.
and reverends have to do with you being a congresswoman? Like that's troubling to me that she's reeling off all these pastors, because that is usually just a way to say, well, I'm going to just focus on these black people that will always vote Democrat. Because the black church is one of those places that everybody goes. You saw the Hillary Clinton thing, which we ain't no ways tired. Like it's embarrassing. And I can't respect the pastor that allows that to happen and doesn't call it out. Because in the first place, I don't think that that's a place for politics. I don't think that, you should be inviting politicians to the church unless you're going to invite both sides and have a conversation. I think that that's what we need to do. We would have, the Jasmine Crockett and the Byron Donalds, and they sit down and have a conversation and we hear their ideas and the ideas are challenged. I think that would be good. But to have it as like a campaign stop, that's not good, especially when you don't hear the other side. And all that's going to happen is they're going to misquote a Bible verse or say something that is completely out of context for the Bible, or they're going to go and say all the right things. But when you look at their life, it's not congruent with the things that they're saying. Or when you look at how they vote and the bills that they're putting forward, it's not congruent with the black church. For the most part, most black people are socially conservative in the sense that, the things that they view as kind of like, we don't support that, those things are more conservative. But then you have the black pastors who, for a lot of them, it's about raising their credibility. It's about raising their profile by having these politicians there.
With my advocacy and partnering up with those that are in the Black faith community, making sure that they have access to the information that they need. I think that I'm also going to dig in at the state level, instead of kind of spreading myself thin, not getting enough rest because I'm constantly on flights. I've got well over 2 million miles because I have kind of been going and going. So, we've got these statewide elections that are going to take place in Texas. And so I think that those candidates can use me across the state of Texas to hopefully get us to some kind of wins. So I'm going to dig in more locally, as well as kind of the Black faith community. That's probably where I'm going to expend a lot of my resources.
All right, so the fact that she's saying this should be troubling to everyone, because if you weren't doing that before, if you're only going to do that now because you lost, because nobody was supporting you, your constituents should be concerned that you were flying all around, because clearly you wanted more of a national platform when you should have been in them streets. Like Kamala Harris said, you should have been in them streets trying to make sure that your community and the people in your community, their voice was heard, because they voted for you to make change in their community, not to try to be on Meet the Press and have these sound bites on social media. It's the same thing with AOC, and that's one of my beef with a lot of these people. Instead of we really shouldn't know their name. The fact that we can reel off their name means that they're probably not working hard enough in their community to be able to make the changes for the people that actually voted for them. Because think about it, like there's a handful of Congress people and senators that their name. It's different those who maybe have run for governor or maybe have run for president. That's different. But your everyday senator or congressperson, you shouldn't necessarily always be seeing them on the news. You should be able to see them on local news, but not necessarily national news, because they should be doing the work of the people that actually voted for them. Anyway, I've covered off two of my least favorite people, but most favorite people to talk about. I really think we can do better. I really think we can do better than Joy Reid. I think we can do better than Jasmine Crockett. I think if we were to just kind of try a little bit harder, we'd end up with better politicians who actually deliver and aren't just there to create an online platform for themselves or create another revenue stream for when they get voted out. Because you look at what happened to Jamal Bowman, and look at what happened. I forgot the other lady that was loosely in the squad. You know, they got voted out. So a lot of these people have to create another means of making money. Listen, I'm just a guy with the internet. So if you disagree, if you have a comment, you know, make sure you put your comments in there. Make sure you like. Make sure you subscribe. And if you're not already a subscriber to Black Conservative Perspective, which is Greg Foreman, make sure that you subscribe. He's really close to 1 million views, and it would be great to see him get that plaque to get to 1 million views. And thanks for watching.